One of the most heralded and celebrated superhero movies is Logan, a send off chapter to the Wolverine and X-Men saga. Seems like everybody just reveres Logan, then they think that it's, oh, this beautiful send off. So much so that when it was announced that Deadpool and Wolverine was going to be a movie coming out, that people were apprehensive at the idea because Logan was such a wonderful send off for this beloved character in Hugh Jackman. And I personally think, upon seeing this movie in theaters and not being too enthused about it, and then rewatching it the other day, I do believe this is the most overrated superhero film of all time. People talk about this film like it's just an incredible, beautiful movie. And I think Hugh Jackman's incredible. I think Patrick Stewart's incredible. The acting in this movie is phenomenal. But overall, the story is a mid version of Terminator 2. And I just don't get it. I think maybe it's because of expectations being lowered so much with X-Men Origins Wolverine. Maybe people, I don't know what it is. People just love Hugh Jackman. But I think the story of this movie really fails where other movies succeeded. But maybe I'm on an island. Let's find out. Jason, our paragon of positivity. You love everything. Do you love Logan?
We talked a little bit about this before I started watching it, so I kind of knew what your mentality was. And I'm like, no, I'm going to have the opposite mentality. I'm going to find every grain of greatness within this movie. And I was searching very hard for that. So I was surprised. I had it in my mind so much higher. And then, like, why? Why did we put this movie on such a pedestal? And I think it was the R rating, the gore, that was the first time we got to see brutal Logan, and that is probably one of the better parts of the movie is getting to see just like him actually taking out guys' heads and arms and stabbing lots of times, where they would really pull the punches on that in a lot of the franchise Marvel movies or X-Men. So, no, dude, I did not think I was going to agree with you on this one, but yeah, it is not hold up the test of time, and I would like to dive deeper into why on that though. Is it because of Deadpool? Is it because of the times when that released, or is it just didn't hold true as long as we thought it would? So, yeah, it's a little bit a little weak for me. I didn't think I'd say that.
That is, I'm surprised, Jason. I genuinely didn't expect that from you. I I don't have too many problems with the movie, but when I saw it initially, I was like, oh, this is like a 7 or an 8, somewhere in there. And I feel pretty much the same about that rewatching it. I think, yes, as you said, the acting between Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart and their relationship and the story just between them, I think is really great. I think it's fantastic interpersonal relationship storytelling between superhero characters, which is hard to do. So I think that aspect of the movie is great, and I appreciate that aspect of the movie so much that I just give other things kind of a free pass of just being like, I don't really care as much about the other stuff, but I really appreciate that we got that story. Because it feels, that aspect of it feels like the true, this is how Logan's story is supposed to end. Not just because there's a comic that's Old Man Logan, but because he's a tragic character. He's not supposed to get like, oh, everything works out so beautifully for him in the end. So I think from that aspect, I love the movie, but I think X-23 is just a really typical annoying kid character. I have a personal, when I was a young child and we watched a family movie that we watched a lot was The Magnificent Seven. And something that broke my heart was in that movie, and I just
Spoiler alert for a 50, 60-year-old remake of The Seven Samurai.
Charles Bronson gets murdered or gets shot and killed because 3 annoying-ass kids are stupid and run in the middle of a gunfight, and he has to shield them, and he gets shot and dies. I love Charles Bronson, and that just stuck with me, and that's how this movie feels, where it's just like, oh, all the stupid, shitty kids like are being dumb, and then they all get round up, and then guess who has to go and sacrifice himself to die? So that aspect of it feels annoying and feels like they could have capped it off better. Again, overall, the highlights of the movie for me are the interpersonal relationship between Charles and Hugh, and I think that aspect of it is amazing. The violence is great. But yeah, there is definitely other parts of the movie that's, left to be desired.
X-23 slash Laura, the kid, female kid clone of Logan, basically. And it's supposed to be this touching, the old gruff Logan, get some humanity by connecting with the little girl version of him. But it doesn't work for me at all. And it doesn't work because Terminator 2, that I mentioned earlier, is the perfect example of how to do this. When I first saw Terminator 2 and John Connor's this teenager, this punk teenager, and when it was set up that it was him and the Terminator have to team up, I'm like, I'm gonna get this annoying kid and the badass Terminator and a little kid. This sucks. Well, I was quickly shown to be a complete moron because it's one of the greatest relationships ever in a movie where this kid is teaching the Terminator how to be a human. And he's teaching him how to curse, and he's teaching him how to smile, and he's teaching him what it's like to be a living, walking human being. And it's very touching, and it's done wonderfully. The little moments throughout the movie that culminate in the demise of the Terminator, it's so beautiful. There's not one of those moments in this entire movie. There's no moment at which Laura and Wolverine connect. It's just she's silent and he's just taking her to where she wants to go. She's sidelined until partway through the movie, Professor X gets dispatched, and then she starts talking after being silent. And it's just like this. There's no relationship here. I'm supposed to care just because you're similar to Wolverine, but I don't.
Yeah, they tried really hard to push that one down our throats on that one. And one of my notes I have here is, I mean, Hugh Jackman does great at acting in this movie, but he is essentially just dying the whole movie. Like that's his acting is. You just need to be coughing and dying, for 2 hours and 20 minutes too. It's a long one. Yeah, it had so much potential with her and him, and I think it was more of the focus of a send off for Wolverine and Charles. Like this was another great, like, what would Charles's end of his life kind of be like too, which I think that was some of the best parts of the movie, is trying to deal with Charles and his seizures and his mental breakdowns on that hotel and stuff like that, where he almost was the villain of this movie that they were trying to stop. So I try to, like you said, Remy, focus so much more on their relationship, because this one was so weak. But at least we got the Hugh Jackman lookalike X-24 to try to like fill. I forgot about like the casting and whatever that was for that guy. It's like, we need someone to look exactly like Hugh Jackman to come in and play another version of Wolverine. Like there's parts of that movie I'm like, did I just kind of like block these out because it was kind of shitty, and I just always like remember the good parts of this, because there was a lot of like very like what the fuck kind of situations that happened during this watch. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Mav.
Rem, we talked before recording about the villain. I mean, the antagonist of this movie is Boyd Holbrook.
Not Charlie Hunnam.
Not Charlie Hunnam. Not definitely not doing a Walton Goggins Southern voice. I like Boyd Holbrook, but his character does seem to be lacking. They don't really give him anything other than he's just tracking Logan to get to X-23 and the Children of the Corn. So that's kind of he's an antagonist with a metal arm, and that's pretty much the extent of his character. Why doesn't his character work?
He had a metal arm.
You find this mutant. You find this mutant.
Yeah, he's just flat. Like he had, they give him a good like sinister intro where he's like got that calm demeanor where he feels like he you can tell he's a character that feels like he's in control, because he just doesn't feel threatened by the fact that he's in the car with Logan, and Logan's like, who the fuck are you? But there's no progression. There's like the evil scientist character that they have I forget that actor's name,
Richard E. Grant.
Yes. They bring him in, and they're kind of more of the same, because they're like, neither of them are a physical threat to Wolverine. They're just like, oh, we're just the guys behind the real threat, which is X-24. So it feels like they're just like a combination of two characters that are pointless. They're supposed to be more background characters, but he's not really a background character. So it just feels like they didn't really commit.
X-24 is, there was something about X-24, which is the evil, just a scientific experiment, literally. I'm not unlike the Weapon X program, but literally devoid of any humanity version, the ultimate rage monster Wolverine. I did like the sequences with that character. There was something about him that I couldn't place. I'm like, why is there something intriguing about him? And I realized, for those of you that watch MMA and UFC, he's literally a chin strap brigade fighter version of Wolverine. Remy, if you can put up a picture of any number of chin strap UFC fighters from Dagestan, or the guy he looks like the most is Hamzat Shemaev. Like the way his facial hair is, it's hilarious because I'm like, this is literally a chin strap brigade murderer version of Wolverine.
That's amazing. I've never made that connection before.
Speaking of beards, the kids all cutting Wolverine's beard to be exactly like his old school look. Like they were that good of barbers. You see all that? There's like 40 kids, like all with, and he comes out like his classic, look. I'm like, oh wow, they missed their calling.
When the kids get Logan and they trim his beard, and there's the one kid that's supposed to be like the leader kid, who is like some teenager. He walks with the most unearned swagger walk of all time.
For being a kid that was like held in captivity and abused all the time, like
he walks with the Charlie Hunnam Sons of Anarchy like shoulder walk. There's a moment where Wolverine's walking after him, and he's walking away, and he's like telling kids to do things, and he's doing a swagger walk. It's a little niche part of the movie, but I was like, this is so stupid. Like, why is this kid walking like that, who's been prodded and poked? He's like a more realistic, I think, version of those. All these kids look like they just walked off like out of the trailers, of the movie trailers, and into the lot, because they don't feel like abused children. They just seem like children, which maybe they didn't want to get that dark with it. Fine. But it is weird because like in Stranger Things, 11 feels like a really fucked up kid. Like it's like from the get-go, you're like, this girl's been really fucked with. None of the kids really give that vibe off, when again, maybe they didn't want to get too dark with it, but it was just Children of the Corn, annoying Wolverine saving a bunch of kids I don't care about, don't have any connection to. Just another part of the movie that doesn't work for me.
He had some of the best powers out of all the kids. Maybe that's what gave him the swagger. The leader dude, I think he was more powerful. If someone got you like slightly cold, like, oh no, they did freeze off the arm of that one guy, but someone could like control grass and like tried to choke someone with it, but needed like everyone else like curb stomping the guy to help out. But okay, wait, adamantium bullets. Why have we not seen these things more? They're very powerful. This thing one shot took out X-24. Wolverine never got shot by one of these his entire career.
Somehow Stryker never thought about like, oh, I could just make. He's literally boiling like a shit ton of it, and he has like gallons of adamantium, and he never thought like, maybe I'll just put some into a bullet.
But anyway, let's be positive for a second. Jason, there's the action, the violence. It is something we haven't seen to this point with the movie. I do feel like that part of the movie was great and well filmed, great cinematography, choreography. That part of the movie, I think, is the reason why we all showed up, and I think, like you said earlier, why it stuck with so many people.
I mean, yeah, it's action scenes that I remembered. It's a really slow middle to the movie, but it's a great start in the beginning. Yeah, seeing Logan just beat up the guys with the rims, stealing his rims and stuff like that, and just really showing how just old and just over it he is. And then when the guys come to get X-23, seeing her and him, and then kind of the final stuff in the woods at the very end. I mean, those are like the three. And yeah, it just sucks that there's just nothing really attaching those three scenes between it. But yeah, no, that's why I think it was so well remembered and revered is they did those action scenes finally, like what we wanted to see Wolverine, Berserker Barrage and all that crazy stuff, to him to do. So I thought the auto trucks were cool. I think we're going towards that. The trucks that have no cab on the front.
The cyber trucks.
Yeah, the cyber. I was like, how do we not have those already? That's like going to happen tomorrow now. It's so there's some fun things. Xavier calming all those horses. That one scene with that, I thought was kind of cool. Xavier finally like using his powers for good, and throughout that whole movie of him just almost killing so many people. But yeah, no, not a whole lot of positive stuff around my notes, which is surprising.
That scene with the like the horses and the family, the rancher family, feels so unnecessary because it's already a tragic story, and they're like, it'd be extra sad if there's a nice family that takes them in and they all die too. Like, it's just unnecessary. Like, it just felt like really out of place. We didn't need those extra anchors. Just to being like, it's gonna be even more sad. So that part of the movie, I feel like, other than the fight with when he first gets like with X-24 debuting, other than that part, which is really cool and fun.
There's something I want to talk about that I just didn't know how to talk about this and how I really feel about it. Is the introduction of the comics in this movie.
Mm.
That the comics are real. It's like everything that's that. And I think Logan says at one time, it's like one time we got together as a team and then they decided to run with it. So it's not like this is referencing all their greatest hits of stuff that they did throughout their career. It's like how much of it was fiction, how much of it was real, that like almost some news story, and so they make a comic off of that headline, or was it all bullshit? And then them finding clues in the comic books and him reading at the bar. I'm like, oh man, it could have been done well or shouldn't have been done at all. I don't really even know how I feel about that yet.
This whole movie's predicated on this Logan having a longitude and latitude given by the not mother of X-23 to take her to this paradise in Canada.
Coordinates.
Yes, coordinates. Paradise in Canada for surviving mutants, in this case all the children. And it turns out that coordinate came from a comic. Now in the movie there's these X-Men comics that are not real comics in real life, but they are comics within this movie world that are predicated on the legends of the X-Men, which is an interesting idea, although it is weird because I have lots of dreams of comics. I have lots of dreams of going to comic stores and seeing comics that aren't real, obviously. But they look like this movie's comics look, where they're like these big panels with like one line of dialogue, and it doesn't really look or feel like an actual comic. But it's kind of a representation of what a comic looks like. And so the whole movie's predicated on Logan taking X-23 to this fake coordinate, and he's like, yeah, this place isn't real. Like, what are we doing? But that's still what he does, and they still go to this fake coordinate. And I guess the idea is like, well, it could be a real place. If they all go there, like maybe it will be. No, it's a comic coordinate. It's not. It really doesn't make any sense, and they just kind of leave it like, they're gonna go to that coordinate that's not real. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It's like, okay, you gotta like, if you logically try to break it down, of like, okay, so the writers of the comic used real life coordinates because nothing was there. There was just like a random broken down treehouse looking thing. I guess the writers of the comics used real life coordinates, and then the kids decided like to go there. It just happened that they were real life coordinates, because how the fuck would you know that they're real life coordinates? Like, weird, very weird.
It would be like reading an X-Men comic and being like, there's an emergency hotline for all mutants. We have to call it now. It's 555-1234.
And that was a really missed factor of the whole movie as well, too, is the explanation of what happened to mutants. We get it like dusted in there. The doctor even at the end, or some guy said, hey, this is the guy who got rid of all mutants ever. It's like, well, how? Like where do we get to this point where these lab kids are like the only hope for mutant kind, or even why did like evolution? Because they even say that like this was supposed to be the peak evolution of where humankind was going, was mutations, and then all of a sudden it stopped and stopped having kids in mutation. What was that? Something we created, or were we wrong with that theory? I was like, that's interesting to me. Of like they could have explored that more. We're like, no, we're just gonna chop guys' arms and heads off. I mean, she rolls the head at everyone. I'm like, okay, this is getting crazy horror vibes now, where she's just throwing body parts at other people, not just fighting like your life depends on it.
Yeah, final thoughts and ratings. Rembo, what is kind of the overall, having rewatched the movie, where does the movie sit right today?
Yeah, it's right in that 7.5. It's right in the 7.5. Just because I think the high, like the highs of Jackman and Stewart, their scenes together and their relationship dynamics, I think, are done so well and very tear jerking. in some scenes, really, really brutal stuff. I still appreciate the movie for those aspects. And then the violence is really fun. It's not the first rated R superhero like a modern superhero film, but it kind of piggybacked off of that, and it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see him fucking take his claws and put them through dudes' faces and chopping off limbs, and all that's awesome and really, really fun. Definitely benefits from the fact that X-Men movies are like this. You have X-Men 1, pretty good. X-Men 2, really good. X-Men 3, really, really bottom tier mid. First Class is pretty good. Days of Future Past, really good. Apocalypse is down here. You just get this crazy up, and then it's Logan. Oh yeah, Logan's one of the good ones. So it's easier to remember it in a positive light. Also, something I love is if you watch the behind the scenes, great clip, you can find it on YouTube, of Hugh Jackman in the recording booth while he's running. There's the clip of him running through the forest, and he's doing all of the noises and effects, and dude's in a recording booth, but he's acting the same level of intensity he would be if he was on camera. It's a fucking awesome clip. It's just showcases the brilliance of Hugh Jackman and the effort that he brings to his role.
It's a shame when we compare movies just to other ones. Well, it wasn't as bad as this one, but not as good as this one. That's where we have to put it. So I try to think of it like this standalone, and even this director, James Mangold, impressive. Is a lot of the things, but I mean, what? The Dial of Destiny, though, I think his last movie, though. So I guess they use up all his creative juices, but Walk the Line, I think, and then 310 to Yuma, and then Girl Interrupted. I mean, he has some very, very cool movies, and I think the style of that kind of came through. I mean, it was an ugly movie. We were in the deserts or bars or woods, the whole time. So it was very dark feeling, but it had so much potential. And I almost want to watch it again to kind of see okay, what was the really little things that were just so this is where it went so left course or right course. So it's it had so much potential, and it kept someone else just grabbing the wheel and pulling really quick and then not making someone do something else. So is this where it was this corporate thing where he had this great idea for a movie and they were no, you can't get too R-rated, or we need to keep it within these confines. So I think there's a little bit more to this movie. There's probably some cool documentary out it saying it's the director's cut was what he really wanted, or something along that. So trying to be that paragon of positivity, trying to get a little bit out of it. But if it comes on TV, I'll probably watch it in a background thing. I probably will not seek out this movie for quite a long time, but a solid 6, 7 maybe on a good day.
The lovely Ms. Monica Bryant, we sat down to watch Deadpool and Wolverine, and then immediately I was like, wait, you've seen Logan, right? And she was like, no, I haven't. So then we had to watch Logan before we watched Deadpool and Wolverine. And it cannot be overstated how incredible an actor Hugh Jackman is. Just the fact that he gives it his all as this character he's played about a dozen times in every scene, it blows my mind how good and intense, no matter how bad the writing of Deadpool and Wolverine gets. There's moments of Deadpool and Wolverine, Monica's laughing at just the dialogue of how terrible it is. But in every scene, Hugh Jackman just brings it in this movie and in Deadpool and Wolverine. I will say, having watched these two movies back to back, the first 30 minutes of Deadpool and Wolverine is actually a lot of fun off the depression that is Logan. Logan's just a very depressing movie. The first 30 minutes is a lot of fun. And then Cassandra Nova shows up, and Jesus, just, man, I mean, it literally tanks that entire movie tanks on Cassandra Nova showing up and ruining that movie. And plus the writing was very good. But anyway, Hugh Jackman's incredible, amazing actor. I hope he gets to do more Oscar bait movies and not just having to do Wolverine till he's 90, but I think that's kind of where we're headed. It's a 6. Overall, it's a 6. It's a worthy attempt at giving a good send-off to Wolverine, but obviously that send-off is is far away, as now he's back. He's probably going to be in Secret Wars and going to be in. They've already announced, or not announced, but it's word on the street is that they're completely recasting the X-Men except for Wolverine, who won't show up in the next X-Men movie, but he will be Hugh Jackman at some point showing up in the future. So enjoy it. It is not the send-off you thought it was. In fact, Logan is the most overrated superhero movie of all time, but I do love Hugh Jackman. And that's Last Page.